I showed this, first off, welcome to our Routing, Switching Essentials class for the week of 319. I appreciate everyone being here. What I want to do to begin today's class, I'm not going to actually go over chapter 5, but I do want to show you something, if I can get to chapter 5. There it is. All right. You will see that chapter 5, let me go back to that because that's actually a good word to look at. You'll see that chapter 5 has in it basic switch configuration and switch security features such as port security and configuring SSH. I get the question all the time from instructors, how important is this chapter? My default answer is all chapters are important. Okay, I personally don't think anything can be skipped or anything should be missed. However, one of the things that I have recently learned, because, you know, like I said, it takes me 22 years to figure this out, believe it or not. This is, once again, the list of topics for the interconnecting devices, interconnecting Cisco network devices. So this is CCENT, the CCENT exam. If you look down through here and look for the word configure, you will see that configure, verify, troubleshoot VLANs, that's our next chapter, so that's going to be something. But if you look down here, configure, verify, and troubleshoot port security, that is an entire item in the exam. That's 26% of the exam. There's an entire 2.7 and all these items under here. So you and your students better know port security in order to pass the CCENT. And not only know it, you better know how to configure it. So we're not just describing the MAC address table like we learned in the last chapter, or looking at how frames get switched or frames are flooded or the MAC address table. We don't need to be able to just describe that. We must be able to not only describe and understand port security, you've got to be able to configure port security. All right. That's something, and again, I'm ashamed to admit that it's taken me 22 years to figure this out. That if it says configure inside of the exam requirements, especially for a Cisco anyway, it may not be true for all of the certification exams, but it should be, then you will see that you need to be able to do this. For instance, go down here and you'll see that another thing you need to be able to do is configure, verify, and troubleshoot basic device hardening, such as configuring SSH and local authentication and secure passwords. So that basic things that we do, login banner, you need to be able to configure those. And if we look at chapter 5 and we look at the content on chapter 5, so as you're studying through chapter 5 and reading chapter 5, I would actually suggest that everybody print these out and then start making a list of what chapters each one of these in. Keisha, kind of like what we're doing in CCNA CyberOps. And making a list of what chapters these are in, and then you will know as you go through the chapter, hey, guess what? You know, chapter 5, how do I boot a switch? What's basic management on a switch, which again is different because you have SDIs, not physical ports. So we use an SDI. But also, as you move through this chapter, you're going to see that this chapter looks at port configuration and it looks at port security and SSH. So you actually learn to configure SSH in this chapter. Well, folks, that's a dead-on topic right here in the exam. So if you go into that exam and you don't know how to configure SSH, don't expect to pass, or at least know you're giving those points up. So that's something when your students ask you, okay, what should I study? What's important? Well, everything is important, but you better know these items in detail. And so that's something that, again, I'm ashamed it's taken me 22 years to figure out, but, you know, it happens. It's like my dad said, if you can't be smart, you better be tough. So I must be pretty tough. But that's really that's the only real thing I wanted to talk about today. Instead of going over chapter 5, and I will go over it if you really need me to, but otherwise I'd rather wait the next week where everybody's kind of a little more caught up and a little further along. This is a great chapter, I think. I mean, I think it's just a phenomenal chapter, teaching you things that are really needed in a corporate network. So let's just take a minute here, and I'm open for any questions. I am going to leave the recorder on because you may have some questions that your classmates want to hear. So if not, I mean, I can stop the recording too. But
yeah, I can't think of anything that I have right now. I'm in the process of reading through the chapter, so
okay.
I haven't got that far. And a lot of this is review.
Yeah.
So slowly coming back.
Yeah. And like I said, one of the things I do want to stress too is make sure when you view the calendar, remember that our due dates are flexible. You should have had Chapter 5 stuff in yesterday, but if you don't have it in, again, I'm not going to have an absolute heart attack, but be aware that, just don't let yourself get too far behind to where you have so much to do that you can't catch up, all right? That's the big thing. I keep getting questions from people about, well, what if I miss the due date? That's cool. And by the way, I do appreciate everyone telling me that because I do like to know that you're going to be out of the office or you're not going to be there so I can actually see that, what's going on. But I think this week we've got a lot of people on spring break. Probably next week and the week after. I think ours is a week after. Ours starts on Monday after Easter. In fact, we only get 2 days. We technically only get Good Friday and that Monday, and I think I got to be here Monday for our data center anyway. So.
Wow.
Yeah. Welcome to my world, but it's going to be a really cool data center when I finally get it done. I'm going to stop this.